Hello, and welcome to Foundations for Algebra, Unit 3A, Lesson 4. Today, scholars will use cube roots to solve real-world equations. Please make sure you're completing your notes as you're watching this video. So first we have a question, what is a cube root? So a cube root is the side length of a cube with a given volume. Remember, when we have 3 dimensions, we're talking about volume. So you'll see this cube here. It has a height of 3, a length of 3, and a width of 3. To find its volume, it's 3 times 3 times 3. Remember, that's sort of the definition of a cube. All the sides are the same. Well, 3 times 3 times 3 gives me a volume of 27. So 3 cubed, remember cubed just means to the third power. So this is the same thing as 3 to the third power. And will give us 27. The opposite of that is our cube root. Let's talk about that some more. So, how do we write it? It looks like a square root, but it has this small 3. That's called the index of the root. When you get to higher level maths, you'll actually see other numbers there also. So if we know that 3 cubed equals 27, then the cube root of 27 is 3. It's an opposite, just like squares and square roots. One thing to keep in mind, though, when we look at cube roots is you'll notice the cube root of 1 is 1, but the cube root of -1 is -1. There's only one cube root. Unlike the square roots, there's only one cube root for each number. So again, the cube root of 1 is 1. Cube root of -1 is -1. Because if I multiply 1 times itself 3 times, I get 1. If I multiply -1 times itself 3 times, I get -1. So let's say this happens here. The cube root of 8 is 2. -8 is -2. So we can have cube roots of negative numbers. And you'll see I've given you all the way down through 10. You're expected to know down through 5. You should have an idea. These numbers should look familiar at 6, 7, 8, 9, but then you will be expected to know 10. 10 is 1,000. Okay, so 6, 7, 8, 9, you would probably be given a calculator for, but you should know the cube root of 125, 64, 27, 8, and 1. And again, of 1,000, and of their negatives. So, how can we use a cube root? Well, let's look at this problem. I have a cube that has a volume of 64 cubic inches. Remember that all of our volumes are in cubic units. How long is each side? Okay, so in this case, we're trying to go from the volume to the side length. So we're just going to take the 64 and find the cube root. If you look back at the chart on the last page or at the chart in your notes, you'll see the cube root of 64 is 4. If you're putting this in your calculator, there is a cube root button. I can show you where it is later. So that was pretty easy. I know it's 4 and not -4 because it is a positive number I'm taking the cube root of. If I want a negative answer, I'd have to be taking the cube root of a negative number. Next one. So what are the dimensions, and I ask you to the side like this, of each side of a cube that has a volume of 125 cubic feet? So again, we're going from volume to something to do with the sides. So the first step is going to be taking the cube root of 125. Well, the cube root of 125 is 5. But it doesn't ask us how long the sides are. It just tells us this is 5 by 5 by 5. It wants to know the dimension of a side, of the sides. So the side of a cube is a square. And when we talk about squares, that's not a very nicely drawn one, but you guys get the picture. When we talk about squares, we talk about them being two-dimensional. So we have a 5 here, because everything is 5s, and a 5 here. So the dimensions of this are 5 by 5, or actually, more accurately, 5 feet by 5 feet. Okay, so make sure you know that you're looking for the dimensions here, not just the side length. Okay, so go ahead and try these problems that I've given you on your own, and I will see you in class.